Hi everyone, I wanted to do a little video on some different swatches of the Padme uh, funeral gown or water gown cloak that I have. I know that swatches on Spoonflower can be expensive at, $5 a pop, so I thought this video might help people decide which swatch they want to get. I still recommend getting a swatch because it's important to see how thick the fabric is, how it moves, if it drapes well, if it's the colors you want. They all print differently. It can be the same design, can print very differently. So I wanted to start with the Celosia Velvet, which is, it used to be the only velvet that Spoonflower had. You can see it does have that sheen that velvet has, but it is, the one criticism I have is it is quite thick. The backing here is almost like a very lightweight canvas. And it's still good. It's just, it's going to be heavy. It doesn't drape as much as you would want it to, like the original fabric. But if you're going for, if you're really set on velvet to try to be like more accurate, this is still a good option. All of these fabrics, except one of them that I'll show, you would really have to line because you're going to see the interior white and you don't want to see that on the costume. So that's the one downside about the printed fabric, but you're not really going to find anything close enough. So it's still a great option, but this is the velvet. Try to show the thickness there. It is, like I said, it is quite thick. So if you have your heart set on velvet, it's still a good option. It feels really soft and there is a pile to it and it prints well. And remember that if you're getting the Celosia Velvet, I have a special listing for it because it does print differently than all the other fabrics. So I have tweaked the print file to make it come out like this. So it's only for the Celosia Velvet. I did hear that Spoonflower had a new type of velvet called Performance Velvet. And I was curious to see, is it going to drape better? Is it going to look better? I have to say, I'm not impressed for this project. I think for other applications, it's a nice fabric. It's almost more like a felt. It's still thick, but I would say it slightly drapes a little bit better than the Celosia Velvet. The issue is it doesn't really look like velvet. It looks like thick felt to me. And it printed a lot differently than the Celosia Velvet too. So, although I think I printed this from the original file. So I don't see any advantages to this. If you're going to use one of the velvets, I would just use the Celosia Velvet. But again, if I'm just showing how the color comes out and the thickness there. And you can see it's almost like a soft craft felt back and front. Less of a pile than the Celosia Velvet. Less of a sheen than it too. You can see this has that sheen that you're so used to on velvet. So those are the two velvet options. We also have the Performance Pique or Pique. I'm not sure how they say it. I'm just going to say Performance Pique. And this actually turned out to be a surprise. It's a really nice fabric because it drapes well. Hold on, I have a kitten here trying to steal my samples. You might, if you hear random noises, it's my new kittens. So this is the Performance Pique. I like it because it drapes incredibly well. You can probably tell just from me moving it around. And it prints nicely. And it is, get down there, Wolfie. It is a stretchy fabric. So be aware of that. I'm not sure how that would work with a long cloak that's heavy. Sometimes it feels like you would definitely, okay, so it's not as stretchy lengthwise. On the horizontal, it's much, much stretchier. So I think if you're using this one, and obviously the pattern goes up and down, you're not going to have to worry much about the stretch of the weight of the fabric. And it does print beautifully. So, and just drape beautifully. It feels nice. It feels nice and smooth and almost like one layer of a swimsuit fabric. And it's hard to show the thickness here, but it is thinner. There we go. That's a better way to show it. So yeah, I do really like this one. Now another one that really surprised me, that I'm really kind of in love with, is the Minky fabric. So we all know like the Minky cuddle fabrics from Joann. They're really, really soft. Like even softer than the velvet. They have that pile to it. They're just really nice. So this one actually looks like velvet more than the performance velvet. So if I had to make this costume again, I would probably myself choose the Minky fabric, just because I'm not concerned with it actually being velvet and actually being as accurate. It also drapes a lot better. And it's still got a bit of weight to it. Not as much as the Celosia Velvet, but here's the thickness of it. And you can see my kittens down there, sorry. Although, why am I apologizing? Everyone loves kittens. So it's just very nice and soft. This is softer than the Celosia Velvet. It's softer than anything else. It might... Now, I have not worked with Minky fabrics a lot, so I think it would be a good option. But yeah, this or the velvet. I'm going to say this is probably my favorite, though, just because it drapes slightly better than the other options. And it looks the most like velvet out of the non-velvet fabrics. I also have a few other options. I can never pronounce all the fabric names from Spoonflower, but this is the Crepe de Chine, or the crepe fabric, we'll call it. So you do have a bit of transparency to it, so it's not a totally stark white background. And it is very flowy and very delicate. So it is like a thin, translucent silk almost. And again, if you were to line it, obviously you would line it with like a navy or something darker, but you wouldn't get as much transparency there, and it would still come out really nice. Now we also have, I love me some Spoonflower chiffon, and I know this isn't exactly what you would think of when you're making this costume, because it's sheer, and on camera it actually does not turn out the best. But if you think about it, if you're going to line it with a dark fabric, you kind of get that translucency. Hang on. Get down, Wolfie. Come on. No, you can't play with that. If you line it with another fabric, you get that translucency, which is very very water-like, which goes with the costume, So I don't have a plain, let's see, I can hold on a second. So if you lined it with something darker that didn't have a pattern, you can see it still looks like the pattern in the fabric. And it just gives a different effect. You could even, like I had before that sample under there, you could even have a fabric underneath that was, and my samples are getting stolen again by my kittens. You can't have that. I'm sorry. I'll give it to you later. So you could even, layer both, but you would definitely need like a lining for this. You would have to take into consideration the seams. So, you'd probably need to serge the seams and make them very thin, because you're going to see through that, where the two pieces of the cape come together. Probably not very noticeable at all, but just another thing to think about. And I would also love to try to make the costume out of this, just because I think the sheerness really works with water. And if you can't get like a true burnout velvet like the real costume, which, trust me, I tried. I got close, but it wasn't exactly like the costume. This is also a good option, so don't discount this. If you want something very lightweight and flowy, great option. I wouldn't recommend any of the cottons, but I I was curious to see, Spoonflower has a new fabric in beta called Cotton Lawn, and I think it's supposed to be like their discount cotton fabric. It is still in beta, so this might not be its final form. And I was just curious to order it. I would not use it. I would not use cotton for this fabric or for this project at all. But if just in case you wanted to see it, I am not impressed. It prints very. You can see it's almost like a paper towel in a way. I was really I was so disappointed I actually wrote to Spoonflower because I'm always so impressed with Spoonflower. And this is the first time in years that I haven't liked a product. And I think you can just tell from the way it like crinkles that there's some issues with this. So until they improve it, just the, FYI, I wouldn't go with the Cotton Lawn for anything until it's improved. But I also wouldn't use a cotton for this project just because you need it to be silky and flowy, you know. So yeah, again, Minky's my favorite. It's just got that beautiful softness. It looks like velvet, so it kind of looks like the original. It's so nice and draping and soft and everything. But again, if you want a true velvet, the Celosia Velvet is velvet, but it is thick, so you're going to need a lining for all of them. So keep that into account. I do want to show one note about the Minky, though, since I praised it so much, now that I'm noticing, just to make sure that people are okay with it. So when you get up real close, so because the pile is longer when it prints, there is almost a teeny tiny bit. It's negligible. I'm just doing this for people that are like me. You can kind of see that it's printed on a white background there. So if that bothers anyone, you might want to go with the Celosia Velvet. I don't think it would bother me. I don't see it showing up. You can definitely see it there. I don't see it showing up in photos or on the video. If you're going the same direction and you're paying attention to nap, I don't think it would be an issue. I think it's a big issue if you're going to cut it incorrectly. You need to cut all the pieces the same direction. So just be aware of that. Might bother some people. And on the velvet, it does not do that because it's a shorter pile. So I would probably still choose the Minky just because I like how it drapes better. But you might like the velvet because you might want to have that truly saturated color and make sure it doesn't ever look like it's printed on white or anything like that. So both are great options. Just wanted to say that. Very, very not noticeable on the Minky, but it could bother people. So why not mention it? I would highly recommend, if you're doing this costume, to pick like 3 types of fabric and get swatches of them, because it's just so important to feel it. When you're investing in a Spoonflower fabric, they are expensive. It's an investment. It's a great investment, but you want to make sure you get it right before you place that final order, that big order. So definitely spend the $15, pick 3 different swatches. See, they all print slightly differently. You can kind of tell the colors, some are richer, some are a little bit less. They all drape differently. It's just good to know before you put that much money on a costume. Spend the initial upfront. You'll be happy you did. And I hope this video helped you at least narrow down 3 of those options that you might want to select. So thank you. And the link is in the profile to my Spoonflower profile. There's a special section with replica galaxy type fabrics. Padme fabrics. I guess like I already said that at the beginning of the video, they're inspired by Padme. They're not copies. So yes, thank you again. If you have any questions, please email me. I don't always see the YouTube comments or private messages on Instagram. Email, I will respond to you like right away within a day. So thanks, guys.